Now taxes is 100% free when you file in the TurboTax app if you didn't file with us last year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just do your own taxes in the app by 2/18.
What if I have lots of forms?
All good, all 100% free.
What if I had 3 jobs?
Still 100% free.
What if I once saw Bigfoot?
That has nothing to do with taxes, so still 100% free.
Now that's what I'm talking about.
Now this is taxes. See if you qualify in the TurboTax app. Excludes TurboTax Live, must start and file in app by 2/18.
Welcome back to Hot Takes and Deep Dives, and I am here with one of my most trusted advisors, to be honest. He's someone I talk to about business, money, somebody who I trust, someone who is wise beyond his years. He is the host of No Filter with Zack Peter. Hey, Zack Peter.
Hi.
I mean, you are in LA, so let's maybe just like baseline, like, how are you?
I'm a good 7 miles from the closest fire to me. So I'm, I've got some distance.
First of all, I thought, you and I were talking yesterday or the day before about how you monetize your TikTok. And this is something that you've really done over the past year and more recently in the past few months. Like, it's all about kind of riding the wave. And I thought we could, we were basically having this very compelling phone conversation about it. And then I said, would you be willing to talk about this on Hot Takes? And, you're very transparent and very open about money and business and strategy. And you were like, yeah, I'd love to, because the conversation really should have been recorded that we were having because it was so good. So I'm going to prime you with a lot of similar questions.
Yeah.
Before we even jump into that, I want to begin by saying you are starting the new year by doing 75 hard.
75 hard.
Yeah.
Eating clean, no alcohol, working out every day, or trying to fit in 2 workouts a day, reading 10 pages of a self-improvement book. So I've been going. I mean, when I was asked to do it, because there's a group of us that are doing it, when I was asked, I was like, that's literally everything I already do minus quitting alcohol for 75 days. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I think I'm up for the challenge. I can take a 75-day detox.
I always thought the main tenet of 75 hard was that you had to do 2 workouts a day, and one of them had to be outside, which really was the barrier to entry for me because I don't like working out outside. I need to be indoors, and that's a New York versus LA thing. Are you doing that?
Well, what I'm considering my outdoor exercise is when I walk the dogs. Because I'm outside, I'm moving my body, and at least I'd try to set a time frame of 45 minutes. And I don't always do it in a 45-minute straight, but I'll do just making sure I at least have 45 minutes of walking outside.
But it's 2 workouts per day. So maybe you do an orange. I know I
do Orange Theory in the morning.
You're a big Orange Theory guy. So you'll do Orange Theory in the morning and then walking outside. Well, that's really easy to do. An hour of outside, just walking is the easiest form of exercise. The other piece of it is you have to take a progress photo each day.
Yes.
And you fucking are a thirst bucket, so you take pictures of yourself throughout the day.
I post naked photos of myself on Instagram on the daily, so that's nothing new for me.
This is the thing that I would have to make total routine. I don't really take a lot of solo photos of myself, so that's
you have no photos. Every time I remember when I would have you on the podcast, every time I needed a photo of you, it was the same photo from 2004.
That's not true. That is actually not true. But it was for a long time. Yeah, I don't have that many photos. But I would have to make it a habit. Okay, first thing in the morning, just take a picture in the mirror. That would be the easiest thing for me to forget to do. Because I'm not a man.
Yeah, I don't always remember to take the progress photo. Because also you can't really see the day-to-day comparisons. It's more about every week, So I'm as long as I have one selfie at the start
when you
every week.
String all the I want to tell you something. First of all, when you string all those photos together, day to day you're not noticing anything. But if you 75 in a row, if you then put that into an app that's going to generate a 30-second video, you're going to see something. Okay, let's start here. You started out as a Bravo podcaster, and you really focused, I think, more so on news. I told you could be on CNN. To me, you are a broadcaster. And so you have used social media to really grow a following as one of those talking heads, meaning using the green screen and reporting on whatever the news, the Bravo news is that day. during this election cycle, you wound up branching off into politics, and now you will do broader than just pop culture news. And I'm curious, can you talk about how you've been able to monetize this latest wave of news with the whole Blake Lively case?
Yeah,
like, describe what's happened to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, in order to do that, see, and I think that's a big misconception that people have about me is that I started in Bravo and that's what the podcast was. But people don't realize I've had No Filter for coming this April. It'll be 10 years. So I would say when I started it, it was very general pop culture. People didn't really know what podcasting was. So I would say for the first like 4 or 5 years that I had the podcast, it was a really good learning lesson, but like it was a total flop of like it wasn't taking off. And I think it's one because people didn't really know me. They didn't really like it. The show didn't have like a strong niche. And it wasn't until I leaned into something and that became from general pop culture. And then I leaned more into reality TV. And then I started to get a little more micro, leaned more into Bravo and also leaned into video, which was something that I always knew I should have done from the beginning. And everybody around me, I kept telling them like the podcast needs to go video. And it was just not. Like it wasn't a thing. People didn't do video podcasts.
By video, you mean YouTube?
Just film. I knew that it had to be video form. Like I just knew I was stronger on camera than I was just on mic. And so once I feel like I kind of gained my footing on mic, I knew that like the camera would really just elevate the show to the next level. And I didn't listen to my gut for maybe a good like 2-3 years. And even though I have this reputation for being tied to Bravo, and it's funny because I'll argue with Jacques about this because, you know, our friend Jacques, he's always like, you're a Bravo podcast, just stick to Bravo, stick to doing Housewives. And I've always been like, no, I know that that's what I'm most known for, but I've always covered an array of subjects. And even when it comes to politics, people are like, this last election cycle, you finally got political. And I was like, actually, no, on No Filter in 2016, I heavily covered the election. I worked with Rock the Vote. We did episodes that were dedicated to the election. I did a whole episode on pro-Trump and a whole episode on pro-Hillary to see both sides. I had people come on and debate. Same thing in 2020. I did a liberals and conservatives podcast where we all came and it was just like a big panel of everybody debating everything. So I've always bended when it comes to the genre, I've always bent when it comes to the genre, but it wasn't until, you know, I started to tap into the news cycle, as you said, that it kind of started to gain a bit more traction on socials. And that's when I learned how to use social media to push the podcast.
So if we're to talk numbers, let's first talk about YouTube, actually. So when I first met you, you were releasing 2 episodes a week. Now you go live on YouTube every single day. Monday to Friday? Mm-hmm. Monday to Friday. So here's my first question. Is it easier to do 5 episodes a week versus 2 episodes a week because you're more in a flow state?
You're more in a flow state. And then what I like about the live streaming component is you're live. So you have to navigate the show. You're driving the train as it's going within the hour that you're, you know, or however long the episode is. You have to make it work. Whereas I feel like when you're pre-recording things, I would often be like, oh, let me retake that. Oh, let me edit this. Oh, let me do that. And so then it just takes up so much more time. Whereas it's like, if I know going into it, I just have one clean cut, I have to make sure I nail it in this one clean cut because there's really no editing because it's being live streamed.
And it's forced you to be more concise with your sentences, maybe use fewer words, naturally eliminating the ums, uhs, all of that sort of stuff that we would go in and eliminate maybe a little bit more of in post-production.
Yeah.
Like, how has it made you a better broadcaster?
People say that like one of the toughest forms of podcasting is solo podcasting and then solo podcasting while live streaming because there are so many components to it. You have to stay on track of, you know, what your talking points are. You have to make sure you're not talking too much about one specific topic because you have to be mindful of the time. You usually have a live chat when you're live and you want to engage with people and make sure that you're giving them shout outs and giving them love as well, while also making sure you're staying true to the outline and the structure of the show. So it is challenging. I do like doing it solo. It's obviously easier when I have somebody else on the show to bounce off of, but you know, it really challenged me doing it every single day. Now I have my schedule down and my structure for my mornings is like on lock.
What's your calendar? Yeah, give me your hour by hour. What time do you wake up?
4:15.
Oy.
I wake up at 4:15. I get the dogs out the door. We go outside. So I'll listen to Audible. I'll listen to a book. That way I'm consuming something in my brain's like getting some sort of like positive information. And then from there, I'll come back, I'll get ready to go to the gym. I'll start prepping whatever the show's notes are for that day, whatever headlines were popping the day before, whatever needs to be covered. I do that all first thing in the morning so that the news is always fresh since it's a daily show. Get ready, go to the gym, work out for an hour, come back, make breakfast, feed the dogs, take a shower, jump on the live stream, do the show.
What time?
After that, edit it, get it out.
What time are you going live?
9 a.m. So I work out from 6 to 7, and then I have that 2-hour window to come back, eat, feed the dogs, take a shower, do any last minute prep, brush up my notes, make sure there are no new headlines that need to be added, and then I'm live by 9.
Now,
9 to 10.
To the naked eye, one might say your day is done at 9 a.m., but I know that's not true. Tell everybody what you then do the rest of the day.
So edit the episode, put it out there. I also have another podcast called The Pop Report and another one called Disaster Dater. So if we're taping those, then I'll immediately go into studio to film those episodes.
Which is at Spotify.
On Spotify, yes. And then, but outside of that, it's all just social content. So whatever the topics were of the day on the podcast, then I'll break those down into a 90-second reel that I'll upload onto Instagram, onto TikTok, onto Reels. That way, that news or that info, I'm putting it out across all the different platforms.
It's funny. I have a friend, Brendan Davis. My friends, Brendan and Dan, they host a long-running Bravo recap show called Come Through Queen. And I hang out with Brendan quite a bit. And he says that with the times that he's had to do his show solo, like if Dan was out of town or Dan was sick, like Dan had a baby with his husband, the times as he has had to cover it solo, it made him feel like an insane person, like talking to himself.
You're talking to yourself. You have to be interesting. You have to be entertaining. You have to be engaging. And it's tough because a lot of people, when they do solo podcasts, they're kind of just like awkwardly there. And so you kind of just have to sit with that discomfort and just kind of push through it.
But I think it's different if you're doing it on YouTube because you do have there is interaction.
If you're live, yes.
If you're live, but your audience is, at least a portion of your audience is there, and you are reacting to, they're asking questions, they're giving statements.
That's made it easier. I do still sometimes, like if I can't live stream and I have to pre-tape an episode and I'm doing it solo, then I still, it's just me talking to a camera. Yeah, as long as you have a good script that you can kind of just read from, it makes it easier. So
YouTube monetization, what has been the most profitable topic? Or is there a particular, I know you can look into your analytics, and do you know the most profitable episode you have put out?
I can say Scandival was probably the biggest revenue generator outside of right now, which is Blake and Ryan Reynolds and Justin Baldoni and that whole legal drama. I would say maybe Scandival, Blake and Baldoni, and then maybe third, I would put under the Erica Jane, Tom Girardi stuff. I think that's what really put me on the map was the Girardi coverage, since I was covering the legal side of it and it was Bravo, so people kind of knew me in that space. But then I was, analyzing the lawsuits and breaking down the court docs, that I think that definitely made me a lot more noticeable. And then Scandival, I think, is really where a lot of people found me.
But that also is your secret sauce. Like that is the talent that you have that a lot of people don't, is you have a real passion for the law, and you literally read through all of the court documents and you're able to understand them and explain them in lay language.
Yeah, like that's the biggest challenge, is taking like these 80 to 100 page lawsuits, reading all of them and condensing all of that information into bite-sized 90-second reels that then, are captivating enough for people to keep coming back. And like, as I was covering with Blake and Baldoni, like all of those were getting millions, like, 1 to 10 million views per video.
So let's talk about YouTube first, and then we'll go on to Instagram and TikTok. So let's say Scandival, we'll use that as an example. A 45-minute live stream, doesn't really matter how long it is. How much money roughly are you making per episode?
It depends, right? Because a lot of the episodes, it's a conversion with the ad revenue. So there are a certain number of ads that are run on each episode that YouTube will auto generate. And that's separate from like ad reads that I have on the podcast that I'll read during the episodes. But so it depends on views, who watches through, who doesn't skip, and then who clicks through. So even if you have a video that has a lot of views, that doesn't always convert to high revenue, because the click-through rate and the the watch length also factor into that as well. Like some people, like when you said like timing of the video doesn't really matter if it's a live stream, that's not necessarily true, because if the video is super long and people are not captivated enough to watch, because I've seen people go live for 2-3 hours, but like nobody's watching past the first 10 minutes. So that's not going to perform well.
Ballpark number. How much are you making on a video when at the height of Scandival, when it was happening in the moment?
That's a really good. I mean, maybe like 1,000 per video. I mean, it was good money. I can tell you that.
And how much are you making roughly now a month from YouTube?
It can go anywhere to like 8,000 a month just on YouTube, or like a low month, I would say maybe like 3,000 if it's like really there's not that much going on.
And you're also,
but, I mean, it can range.
And you're also repurposing the audio on your podcast feed as well.
Correct.
And how much?
So any money that's generated through YouTube is specific just to the auto ads, the ad revenue that YouTube's running on your videos.
And then how much are you then making on that same content that you're repurposing on the podcast feed?
It depends on how many ads we have running. And I think it's like a 1,100 to 1,200 per ad. And generally, I do like 3 to 4 ads per episode.
So let's talk
a few extra thousand.
A few extra thousand.
Yeah.
Per month or per episode?
Per week, because we run the ads. We sell them per week.
Okay. Are you saving your money?
So I had a really challenging 2019 that cleared my savings because I lost my job. And that's when I had to make the podcast and my social content. I was making good passive income from that. And that's when I had to really pivot it full time. So I cleared my savings in 2019. I had just signed a brand new lease. I had gotten a new job, and then I had immediately lost the job. And so from there, I kind of had to build. So I built up a little bit of debt, cleared my savings, recovered in 2019. Then we immediately went into 2020, pandemic, whole world shuts down. That was another challenging year. And then 2022, 2023, I did kind of bounce back. 2024 was a challenging year because I dealt with some contract bullshit. But outside of that,
what was your day job?
I used to run Jenny McCarthy's foundation. Right. I was the executive director. So I ran the company, and it was a national company.
How long were you doing that? Or how long did you have a job? Like, where you had an employer and you were getting direct deposit, maybe health insurance, benefits, etc.?
I was with the foundation. So I started as like a volunteer / intern, and then I became part-time. And I worked there part-time for a few years. I was there in total for about, I want to say 9.5 years, but I was only really full-time the last maybe 5 years.
That's great.
But like that's full-time job, steady income, benefits, and like overnight that all just kind of went away. And I was like, oh shit, now I got to make this profitable. Like I really got to lean into it. And because I had nothing else at that point, I had no college degree. I had no other job work history outside of the foundation. And to be honest, I wasn't about to go work for another organization because the money in nonprofit is not that great. Like it's nonprofit for a reason. There's no profit to be made.
So I know just from like knowing you really well, you don't have health insurance. You say there are 3 people in your family, you and your 2 dogs, and you're the only one without health insurance. No,
only one of my dogs is insured.
Only one of them? What about the poor other one?
Well, because they're from the same litter, they're very similar. So I'm just like, listen, whoever needs to go to the vet, you're Sky. Like, and we'll just rotate the dogs in and out. They're the same age, same litter. They look the same. Like, we're just whatever we got to do, we got to make it work.
Listen, really I
had to
funny.
recover from 2019 and 2020. Like in 2024, I had to recover from those years. I think this year we'll be able to get everybody back on health insurance.
Doesn't the vet know which one's which?
They don't care.
Oh
I'm in downtown. Vets
so
are small.
Funny.
Yeah.
That is hilarious. I didn't know that. So clearly your tolerance for risk is high.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I've been through so much since I first started working that like nothing can break me.
No, I'm
figure it out.
I'm talking about, like, for example, I come from when I'm about to say very conservative parents. What I mean by that is the first question out of their mouth, or if I'm ever, thinking about leaving a job, is you need health insurance. That's what I mean by conservative. Like, they care about my health, safety, making sure I have constant stream of income coming in that is like a safe. They want me to have a safe job rather than a risky job that could potentially quadruple my income, quite frankly. They would rather, in a way, me take a lower, whatever. That's like the way, that is the way I was raised. Was that just not impressed upon you? Like from your mom, I know you grew up single mom, you grew up in LA. You are, I mean, do you want to say like your background, like you're half Mexican, and what's your...
Yeah. No, I'm full Mexican.
Full Mexican.
I'm Hispanic. But so, yeah, I mean, born and raised in East LA, so not the nice part of LA. Parents had me in high school, traditional Mexican story. Dad had a bunch of kids after me. I was the oldest, but yeah, mostly raised by my grandparents because both of my parents were so young that they really didn't know how to be parents at that age, which is totally understandable. So when it comes to like you saying that I'm fully willing to lean into risks, it was really just because we started at ground zero. There was no real, we were at the bottom, that there was only you can go up from here. And so the safe route was, go to high school, graduate, go to college, get a degree, and then find a good job that's going to pay you, that's going to have benefits, it's going to have a 401k, all of that sort of stuff. I always knew from very young, I was like, listen, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm not going the traditional route. It's just not going to work for me. So even in high school, I went to a Catholic high school for the first 3 years because that's what my family wanted me to do. And then come into my junior year, I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore, and I'm taking the reins of my own life. I've already, I basically signed my mother's signature on all of the documents out, like unenrolled myself from high school, enrolled myself into a homeschooling program because I only needed 3 classes to graduate. And so for my senior year, rather than going to school, I just homeschooled those last 3 classes to get my diploma. And I did that. And even when it came to college, my family was like, you have to go to college. It's the right thing to do. I kind of obliged again. I went to community college for 2 years, knowing I was never going to graduate. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to figure it out. I always knew I wanted to be in entertainment. And I just always kind of had a hustle. And I think my family just saw that, and they saw that like I always was landing on my feet regardless of what I was doing, and I wasn't really coming and asking anybody for money. I wasn't really asking for any, not that there was any money to fucking ask for, but like, we didn't have much, but like I always knew I wanted more than what we had growing up, and I was going to work very hard to get that.
But it's surprising to me that you didn't even go into law because you have such a high level of reading comprehension.
Yeah, but you also have to understand, like, I didn't think that was possible. Like, I didn't realize my own capabilities until I put myself out on the field and then saw what I was capable of. And I was like, oh, I actually, like, I would have never thought I could write a book growing up. I would have never thought that I could read a lawsuit and understand it and explain it to other people. Like, to me, those were such foreign concepts that it wasn't until through Housewives and through an Erica Jane scandal with her husband that I then decided to lean into that and then realize, oh, I can actually, do this and be really good at it.
And we should say that wasn't just a throwaway thing you just said about like writing a book. You did write.
Yes,
several, right, and self-published several
I wrote 4 books. Yeah.
Did you make money from the books?
Not really. They were. I mean, again, nobody really knew me.
So why did you?
Like,
what was the impetus to do it?
Well, they were all focused on autism, and growing up in high school in my 20s, like a lot of it was, just the philanthropic work that I was doing, to try to raise awareness. And, even when it came to my brother, like we did the books, and then we did a documentary. The documentary never came out, but we did that. And so part of the reason that I decided to do that, because people have tried to say, oh, well, you capitalize off of your brother's autism diagnosis. But I was like, actually, bitch, no, I used those opportunities to get him the treatment. Like we got him one of the top autism doctors in the country through those resources that I had, and it was like, oh, hey doc, you want to take us on as a client at a discounted rate? We'll film with you. We'll bring the cameras in. Like we'll do all of this, and so I was doing, brand deals back then. That was 2012, 2013, 2014. Like before I even knew that I would be doing this now, it was just finding ways to pull resources and make what you got to make happen.
And now you use all those skills just in different modalities. So let's talk about the Blake Lively thing, how this is like really popped your numbers and been a huge income source just in the past couple of months or in the past couple of weeks. Talk about what you've been able to create and the strategy behind it.
I mean, listen, I am very grateful to Blake and Baldoni because they've covered my rent for like the next 2 months at this point, maybe even 3 months with just the coverage on social media, not podcast money, not merch money, not because that's another thing that is another conversation for another day. Is you need to have like 8 different sources of income that are constantly coming in.
No, we're gonna talk about that too.
Okay. So when it comes to like the Blake and Baldoni stuff, so I'll read the lawsuit, and I've been doing this a very long time, that you have to come at it from the lens of like what's going to capture people's attention and what's going to like hook them, right? So you always have to have like a name or a celebrity, like even there. So like the video that I'll probably make today will probably lean more on Taylor Swift, because Taylor Swift was just named in Baldoni's lawsuit. She's a big name. She's a big face. So you want to make sure like the face is in it and is very clear. And you want to make sure that like there's a very specific, unique angle that you have. Because what I see a lot of people do, which is kind of their fatal flaw, is they'll go on TikTok and they'll make like, bless his heart, Perez Hilton does this. And it just, to me, is such a poor strategy. He will go on 8-9 minute TikTok videos where he's basically just talking to himself, because nobody's sitting there and watching an 8 to 9 minute video on TikTok. So what I like is that Instagram limits it to 90 seconds. That's the max you can upload a video on Instagram. And luckily, YouTube and TikTok also, for shorts or for TikTok videos, also has that same range. So what I like to do is take a very specific topic, like Justin Baldoni, drops receipts about Blake Lively and the intimacy coordinator. And so the entire video is just focused on that one thing. And I try to talk really fast to get all the details, like the juiciest bits, right? You're not going to fit everything in there. And I think that's where people struggle, is they try to squeeze as much information as they can. So they make the video too long. But like you have to squeeze just the juiciest bits that are going to be, I like to think of it as, will this be a headline in Us Weekly? Can I see this on the cover of a magazine? Because they do the marketing the best, right? Even National Enquirer, they know how to word things and phrase things in a way that's a bit clickbaity, but I think people are also really savvy to clickbait. So you have to make sure that it's beneficial for whoever's watching it. And, I just think keeping it to 90 seconds is within a person's attention span, but also if the video is entertaining enough, they'll watch it all the way through.
And did you learn that strategy through a lot of failure?
Yeah, I mean, trial and error. Like I said, No Filter was a flop for the first 4 or 5 years. And it was because I didn't know how to structure the video. So whether it's a reel, whether it was an article that I wrote, because I used to write for Pop Sugar and Men's Health, outside of the books, I did a lot of, and I actually learned a lot from Pop Sugar when I was writing for them, because they put me on like their TV team. And so I would remember getting assignments from them and then submitting it, and then just seeing how they would tweak certain things, how they would restructure headlines.
So let's talk the monetization of TikTok. So you have a few or several of the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni videos, which have crossed, like one has crossed 10 million views. If some has 1 million views, are people making any money if they do not have more than 1 million views?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't hitting the millions before. I would hit like the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and I would still make some good small passive income. Nothing crazy off of TikTok, but I didn't really use TikTok as much as I did with the Blake and Baldoni stuff, because that's where I saw it really peak. And you also, even though I upload similar content on Instagram and TikTok, you don't, sometimes the audience, like, so perfect example, I did a video on Jen Shah. She's getting out of prison early. And on Instagram, it didn't really do that well. But on TikTok, people seemed a bit more interested and it got more traction there. So you can't always predict which channel is going to do better or which platform is going to do better. But you can definitely make money off of the thousands and hundreds of thousands. It's just about the consistency.
It's funny. I was talking to a stand-up comedian friend of mine, and this goes back to the TikTok ban. The looming ban, which we don't know if it is or isn't going to be banned. He's a stand-up comedian. He has a Netflix special out, but he's not necessarily a household name. He's like has a lot of podcasts, but he's kind of multiple income streams. He's on the road constantly throughout the year. He spent many years trying to figure out TikTok, and he kind of figured it out this year. And he was saying how today he got a check out of nowhere, $1,300. So let's say on average, he's making $12,000 a year from TikTok. Mm-hmm. Is that enough money to live? No, but it is enough money to feel a little bit more comfortable in your life. And so he really has taken a stance that it's disgusting to take away TikTok, because this is a lot of people. Like if you use him as an example, yes, he has many other income streams, But that is a small but important income stream for so many people.
I disagree. And I see that argument. And the reason I disagree is because I've been in the game a really long time, that I know, and I've had the rug pulled out from underneath me so many times. And here's the thing. People got lucky on TikTok because they did funny dances and they were able to monetize off of that. If you want to put all your eggs in this basket, you have to know, similar to being an entrepreneur, it's going to be unpredictable. The road is going to be windy. You're going to have the rug pulled out from underneath you. I mean, I've even told you, even with the podcast, twice did I lose everything with No Filter. Lost all my reviews, lost all my subscribers. It happened twice. The first time was a distribution issue where we switched distributors and it fucked everything up. And then the second time, it was a copyright infringement issue that Apple flagged me with, where they just took the whole feed down and we had to rebuild and put it all back. So
what was the copyright infringement?
I think it was because I was bringing on different pop artists to come on and promote their singles. And I think because we were playing their singles on the show, that the algorithm on Apple was just reading this as copyright content that didn't have permission to be played.
Were you playing full songs?
Not always the full song, but we were playing good portions of the songs for sure because we wanted to promote their singles.
Okay.
And so I think it just read that, and there were, for whatever reason, they're not very good at telling you why or what. That was one thing that we learned too, is their communication wasn't the best.
Oh, I have never met a company with worse communication skills than Apple. Specifically Apple Podcasts. So if you have a question, if you're a podcaster and hey, there's a problem, you will never find out the solution.
No.
So with the Blake Lively, Justin Valdoni videos specifically, let's talk about, is it the RPM or what is it?
On TikTok reads as an RPM.
RPM. So you said that you were able to make your rent on a couple of videos. Now, those couple of videos, one got 10 million views, another got a couple million views. How much money, how is it monetized?
So my understanding of TikTok creators, which is similar to Instagram because they both have creator programs. And so essentially they pay you based off of, they want you to post and they want you to put out good content. So they'll pay you the RPM, or in some cases it's considered a CPM for it. Fluctuates between 24 to 34 cents. I think it's per 1,000. And so for however many views you get and how much engagement your content gets, they will pay you for that content. TikTok does it and Instagram does it as long as you're part of their creator rewards.
And so how does that translate into dollars?
Well, here, I can just pull up my analytics right now and read it to you. I can tell you, I think total, I maybe did 12,000 just from all the Blake and Baldoni content in the last couple of weeks. But here, it'll tell you which your highest rate, your highest ranking videos are. 2 million views, this video, 2 million views translated into $600. 1.7 million views translated into $421. 4.7 translated into $1,200. See, but then I also have another one that got 5.5 million views, but that only brought in $1,100. So it really does count on the actual engagement. People commenting, people liking, people sharing, people saving it. That's a really big factor as well, because you can see this other video got 1 million more views and yet got $100 less. So the engagement is really what counts. It's not just about the views.
So somebody like Bethany, is she making more money with Instagram and TikTok? Why is she bothering anymore with the licensing deals? Or maybe she's stopped doing that because she has a compulsion. She certainly isn't doing quality control the way you are.
No. Let's pull up her account right now. So we have Bethany Frankel, 2.4 million views, and her video. But look at her videos. She got 12,000 views, 200,000 views, 42,000 views, 71,000 views. So they're not benchmark numbers, right? They're all very low, which is a strategy, right?
Is she putting out good content?
No. I wouldn't say she's putting out good content. She's putting out a lot of content. But as I told you, the more content you put out, if the content isn't hitting well, you're not going to end up in the algorithm, right? Because they're going to read that as you're putting out these videos, but they're not of quality because nobody's watching them all the way through, or nobody's liking them or commenting on them. So it's going to show in the algorithm that people just aren't interested in that content. And therefore, it's going to essentially, in a way, shadow ban you because you're not going to be prioritized in the algorithm.
But because she has a more is more strategy, that's her strategy. More is more.
Yeah.
Do you think she's able to make enough money monthly Or,
I mean,
or is this literally just like change that she's just like socking away?
I'm sure it's changed, only considering she has a very high net worth. But I would guess maybe she's making about like 10 to 15,000 per month from TikTok alone. Just looking at her views and the volume of, videos that she's putting out, I would imagine she's not making a ton of money per video, but collectively, I'm sure she's making some good change.
Heidi and Spencer. This is fascinating to me, and I know this is like the story of the week. I mean, I guess for anybody who doesn't know, they invested all of their Hills money into Heidi's music career. This album, Superficial, which came out in 2010, which is 15 years ago. And the album flopped?
Yeah, it didn't do too well, no.
Well, I should say also, their biggest regret over the past 15 years is how could we blow all that money? Like that, they basically saw it as a bad investment, which I guess it was until last week. And so when the fires happened and they tragically lost their home and his parents' home and like their entire community in the Palisades, he is banking everything. I think he sees making that album generate money is the one and only hope they have. And so his whole thing is stream the music and buy the music on iTunes. So when I texted you, which was really how we got into the entire conversation period about streams, I'm like, how the hell is Spencer making $1 off of Spotify streams? Because I work with a band and I know that I tried to buy their album or attempted to go through the process. And I was like, girls, not one person is going to buy this because I'm trying to buy it. And it is impossible. Apple has made it impossible for you to physically buy an album on iTunes. It's the most difficult thing you could ever imagine. And so how are streams translating to dollars? Yeah. I think no real money is going to be made from the streams.
No, I don't think any streams are made.
Any money is made in the streams.
Yeah.
I think what it does is it translates to like Spotify ranking. It's all to capture a headline. It's to like get in the news and have people talking about it the way we are now. They're the number one news story of the week. And get people listening to the music, having that music embedded on TikTok, the TikTok charts. It will potentially go number one on Billboard because there's no other competition. And where the money will be made is that it made Heidi relevant. And she can potentially be booked on like a festival tour, like a Coachella. They're suddenly heroes.
Yeah.
That is where the money could be made.
Well, no, I mean, I would say look at Scandival, right? Look at Ariana. She became relevant, and so bookings and opportunities came as a result of that. So
That's
I don't
what I'm
think
saying.
No, but I don't think he's sending her to perform her music. I think he's ready to book her on other reality shows, on other like look at what he's doing right now. I think they're making money off of interviews, right? Because a lot of these press outlets would be willing to pay for those interviews. That I'm sure he's making some change there. They're going to be making money off of merch. He's now able to promote his crystal business that's still up and running.
But why was his number one directive was stream these 3 songs. He actually, this is interesting. Do you know how he talked to the Swifties and got their advice?
No.
So he reached out to Taylor Swift fans and was like, fucking help me. Like, how do I make this number one? The Swifties said, you have to make a playlist
of 3 songs.
Of 3 songs. And he's like, I'll do it. And what were the other 2 songs? Superficial.
I'll do it. Superficial. And I think Harder. Go Harder.
I think so.
I've been going hard, but it's time to go harder. That's my anthem right now. This year I'm going harder.
And so that's what generates to having one stream rather than having one song play on repeat for 24 hours.
One song on repeat only counts as one stream. But if it's on a playlist where there's more than one song, you can put that on repeat and then every one of those plays counts as a different stream.
What is the worst advice you've been given?
Oh my God, I've been given so much bad advice. So this is really funny because it is part of what made 2024 such a challenging year. So 2023 was a great year. I think I made like $275 for the year, just on the podcast, just like what I was doing with merch, podcasts, live shows. It's a really good year. And then I came into 2024 and took a significant dip in my income. And it was primarily because I was like, oh, well, now I'm in a place where I want to bring people, onto my team that can help scale the business. Right. And so my strategy going into it was, well, these people know the market, they know the space, they know digital, they know podcast. I know my brand and I know my voice and I know my audience, but I, trust other people that are smarter than me to know the landscape. And so there was somebody that I brought on my team that's thankfully no longer on my team that really did give me bad advice. And his advice was just follow, he was like, don't talk about politics. Don't talk about serious issues. Don't talk about your personal life. Don't talk about your dogs and your workout journey. Don't talk about any of that stuff. People don't care. What they care about is to listen to you talk about housewives. So go on and recap this week's Housewives show, and that's all you're going to give them. And make sure it's clear and concise and to the point and yada, yada, yada. And if there's anything that I've learned in the last, at this point, 10 years of podcasting, it's that whatever you're giving the audience is the only thing that they'll keep coming back for. And so my goal was always to build the show around me and my commentary rather than on the topic specifically, right? Because when you're sold to the topic, when you're sold to when you're married to Bravo, then all they care about is Bravo. And if Bravo goes under next summer, guess what? Your numbers are going to take that hit as well, because all people care about is Bravo. And that's why I never shied away from having a hot take or a controversial opinion, because the people that I feel like go on the internet and have the very vanilla, or they say whatever the audience thinks that they want to hear, or they think that the audience wants to hear, then you're also kind of married to the pandering and you can never be honest. And I feel like it also doesn't translate in conversion, where one of the best pieces of feedback that I get from people is, I don't always agree with you, but I like listening to you. I like that you make me think about things differently. I like that you challenge my own viewpoints, and I can then, either figure out what it is about my viewpoint that I really believe in, or it challenges it to the point where I consider a different alternative. And so I think people trust me and there's a bit more loyalty. And I think that's why I have conversion, where if I launch a wine line, we've sold out every single limited edition wine line that we ever put on the market. When I do live shows, the rooms are always full. And I think it's because there is that connection and that loyalty, because people feel connected to me rather than they want to just come and listen to a Housewives recap. So
talk about also, I think this falls right in line with this, how you're banking more on the Zack Peter name than No Filter.
Yes. So I always look at it as like, yes, No Filter is its own brand, but I always build the business out as the top, the Google at the top is Zack Peter, my name and my face. And under that, we have the podcast, we have the books, we have the social content, we have all the buckets that fall underneath that. But I always wanted to make sure that the brand was my name and my face. And that's part of the reason I was blonde for so many years, is because it made me more recognizable. Yes. Even though, there may have been times where I didn't look the best with the blonde hair, but it was something that people kept remembering me by. And I was so afraid to abandon the blonde hair because I knew that that's what people identified with me. And then it kind of got to a point where I was like, okay, I think, I've given them enough of who I am that I feel like, we can ditch the blonde hair and still stay true to, keeping the audience.
Would you say that all in all, it's just kind of evened out, balanced out, and that your look, because your look has drastically changed. What year did you change? Did you grow the facial hair? So
2024.
Do we know the month?
January. So it's been exactly a year.
So has it basically just all evened out? Like, there's no way to say like, oh, it spiked when you went back to sort of like a more natural look.
I wouldn't say it spiked. I would say, it kind of just stood consistently. A lot of people like the dark hair better than the blonde. So the blonde was more to just capture people's attention. But now I think like this has a very classic look with the dark hair that, people, like good aesthetics on camera. Yeah. That, got my eyes fixed, got my teeth fixed, got my hair dark, made sure my features popped.
You're getting a BBL, I heard.
Yeah. Listen, when you have, a cute appearance that can hook people, it does perform better than, that's why when I see some other creators and they're there and their hair's a mess, or they're kind of like in a tank top, or they're like, kind of disheveled, that does impact your content, right? If you pull yourself together, that's one lesson that I always learned from my grandmother is always make sure you pull yourself together, because you'll also feel better, right? When you're ragged out, you kind of have that like lazy kind of bad posture, and your performance is reflected in that. So I always like to pull myself together and make sure I look presentable. That way, you know.
But it's also not like you're in a suit and tie. You're in a hoodie that says Zack Pack on it.
Yeah, but like I still fix my hair, you know, I fill in my brows a bit. I put on a little tinted moisturizer. That way, you know, everything kind of looks a little more appealing.
Okay, live shows. Now, I had the very fun experience of doing a live show with you at City Winery. And is there money to be made? How do I say this? I know there's money to be made. You know, it seems like Tom Sandoval, he's doing like, is he just going to be doing VPR trivia till the day he dies? And Jax Taylor?
As long as people keep showing up for it. And right now, a lot of those shows are struggling.
Is there money to be made in live shows? You've done the City Winery circuit. You've played the Bourbon Room several times in LA. Are live shows a vanity project, or is there actual money to be made?
It's mostly a vanity project unless you're smart. And I've learned how to make a lot of money off of live shows. And it's mainly through sponsorships, right? I mean, well, it's mainly through, similar to the podcast, making sure there's multiple sources of income that are coming in per show, right? Because they're very expensive to produce. You have to think of, you know, the marketing, you have to think of the signage, you have to think of if it's in another state, you have to think of the travel, all of that stuff.
When you did your, so you're based in LA, when you did your shows in New York, are you flying yourself out?
Yeah.
Are you putting yourself up in a hotel?
Mm-hmm.
Some venues
the
will
only thing, so
put
the
you in a
only
hotel.
the only thing that I was able to get out of the venues was a 50-50 rev split for tickets. Or no, I don't know. It wasn't 50-50. I think it was 70-30 or 80-20. So I took home 80 and they took home 20. Because you have to think about it, a lot of the venues really just book the acts because they want the rooms full. They want to make sure that people are there to buy food and alcohol. That's really their priority is, you know, they can bring in any talent and they don't mind giving you the ticket sales as long as you're bringing people in to buy stuff.
So you make money through merch sales and sponsorship and a little bit of money off of ticket sales.
Yeah, you really don't make anything off of ticket sales. Like ticket sales mainly are just to cover expenses, to be honest. Sponsorships is really where it's at. I think the best show I ever did, maybe I earned maybe 20 grand from a single show.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I told you, if you know how to work the system, you can make a lot of money on live shows.
Where did the 20 grand, where did that money come from?
Sponsorships. And you know, you've been to my show. So I
you
like to
partner
make sure
with an alcohol company.
Not always alcohol. The brands that I've partnered with were never alcohol because when I was on tour, I had my wine line and that was like my main promotion. But like when I do shows, I want to make sure there's a step and repeat. We have a photographer. We have a guy videoing everything. You know, I like to make sure that it's done really well. So that's a high budget. And in order to cover those expenses, I mean, ticket sales probably for the most part can cover some of that. But like, you know, you need to sell some pretty big sponsorships in order to cover that. And so my thing was, yes, we'll give you visibility at the event, but then we'll also give you podcast ads outside of that. And I'll make sure we do social posts as well. Like I like to make it a full package that we can give to a brand that makes them invest in that a bit more. So I think like the sponsorship packages that I had ranged from like 10,000 was the highest sponsorship down to I think 2,500 was the smallest sponsorship.
Merch. For the band that I work with, like I use Printful to come up with products. What do you think is the trick to getting people to actually buy? Is this to have like limited run drops?
Yeah. That was a strategy I used with the wine was limited edition, create scarcity, let people know that this is never coming back again, give them a tight window. That's why the holiday collections, the limited edition holiday collections were the best selling ones. And those, you know, sold out like that. And so I think it's the same strategy when it comes to merch. I think one mistake that people make is they put one design or two designs and then they put that design on everything. They're like, I have mugs and t-shirts and sweaters and tank tops and all these things. Whereas even with this most recent merch drop that I just did, I was like, we're having 4 pieces, one hat that says no filter, the hoodie, which is just kind of a classic that people love that says Zack Pack on it, and then 2 shirts. One is a t-shirt and one is a tank top, and they have a different style. Like the design is different for each one. That way people kind of get that FOMO and like, oh, well, I like that design, but it's not available in the t-shirt, so I guess I have to buy both. And that way there is some sort of scarcity that you're giving. Because when you just give people a whole, when it's the
It
Cheesecake
becomes
Factory,
overwhelming.
yeah, it's overwhelming, and then people just don't make a decision, right? So you have to create the demand and the scarcity, and then I mean, even this is kind of like insider, but like even when it came to the wine, or no, not with the wine, with the live shows. So one of my strategies was I noticed that VIP tickets sold better than general admission tickets. So what I would have the ticket seller do on the website is I was like, make sure that you only list this number of VIP spots available. Maybe like, for example, I'll say, make sure there's only 15 of that VIP spot that I knew would sell out like this. And so when it's the Kylie Jenner effect, it's the Kylie Jenner strategy. When you put a limited amount and it sells out like this, then people are like, holy shit, it sold out. And then that's when I'd be like, oh my God, the demand is so high that we're adding extra VIP tickets. These are the last 15. You guys better get them now because they sold out last time, even though the strategy or the intention was always to sell 30 of those VIP spots. You drop 15 and then you drop a second 15. That way you create that buzz.
I love that. That's a great insider secret. Going back to the worst advice you ever got, you said that you brought this person onto the team. Does this is the role really that of like a consultant / manager?
Yes. That's
when people
what he
talk about their
essentially was.
teams, which are often like phantom teams, like oftentimes like you are the team. Yeah. Is it really that of like a manager? It's not necessarily an agent. An agent would be somebody who is actually brokering deals on the side.
Correct. Yes. Well, my manager does both. So I have right now I'm with UTA that's my agent, and then I have a manager, and then there was this third party that was also brought in that was supposed to help kind of broker podcast ads and would earn a commission. So similar to a manager, it's kind of the role he wanted to fill. And worked with him. But like I said, his advice, like he was just so sold to making sure that what I was putting out there was very specific and not me. Like when the show's called No Filter with Zack Peter, it's not called Bravo News Daily, right? So my thing was people are coming, like the brand that I've built is based off of my commentary. So if it's me ranting about my personal life, or like even on Instagram now, I'll go on rants about like, I just went to Target and they tell us that crime is down, but yet the toothpaste is locked up. And I went to the underwear aisle and the men's thongs are locked up. And why are the men's thongs at Target locked up? And, and it just kind of becomes like a bit of a viral moment. These little rants that I've done, similar to like Bethany when she goes on her rants, people kind of have learned to like that and appreciate that. But it's like, those are viral moments that wouldn't have happened had I just stuck to the talking points of recapping Real Housewives of Beverly Hills this week, And so I feel like the only time I ever got negative advice is when it went against my gut instinct, which was to trust the brand that I've built and the direction that I want to go in. It's always good to take in people's feedback, but you have to remember, and the only times I ever fell off course is when I ignored my own instincts and listened to somebody else because I trusted that they knew better than me. And in some cases people will, but your brand, your voice, what you're trying, the product that you're trying to put out there better than anybody else.
I'll leave you with this. Final thought is, what do you predict the following 3 people will do? Or what should they do? If you were managing these people, what advice do you think these 3 people should do next? Number 1, Dorinda.
Oh, it's interesting because I had such higher hopes for her on The Traitors.
I'm devastated. But I'm also extremely jaded and skeptical, and I think everything is scripted and produced within an inch of its life. So like maybe I'm just living in that. I can't believe that Traitor production allowed them to vote Dorinda off for content.
I can't believe that either. Like that was
unless
shocking.
It was punished because it's also not clear how far along Lindsay Hubbard was in talks with the Traitors. That has not yet become entirely clear. So part of me wonders if it was punishment for fucking up the Lindsay Hubbard deal for outing her pregnancy. But anyway, that opens up a whole other can of worms of why would a pregnant woman go on the Traitor. I'm just putting all that out there.
Yeah.
Dorinda.
So what should Dorinda do next? I mean, we've seen Dorinda do a lot of things, right? She tried to launch merch. She tried to launch an eyeglass line. I think one of her biggest selling points is Bluestone Manor. So I think she needs to lean more into Bluestone Manor. I know she was doing events there.
They're filming the Bluestone Manor show in the spring.
Yep. So I think Bluestone Manor is probably her prized possession right now. Ultimate Girls Trip was a great setting for her to do that. I think that this new show, I don't know if it'll take off or not. I haven't seen anything or heard much of a concept other than it's going to be surrounded by the staff there. But I think that's where her money. So like Bluestone Manor, her whiskey, I think she should do more of these live shows and bring the whiskey with her and have it on stage and like create a community with people that like her. People love that she drinks. People love Bluestone Manor and people love Slurrinda. Give them all three of those things. Go to different cities, hang out with your fans, and promote the wine. Do bottle signings like Bethany used to do.
I don't think
or do tastings.
She doesn't want to do city wineries. Like meaning she doesn't want to do live shows. Like she said, I think it was on Nick Viall. It was some interview I listened to. I don't remember what it was, but it was very good. She did Nick Viall and she did the guy who does Snooki's makeup, whatever interview show that is, which it can be fun to listen to. They had a personal relationship. She said that she thinks they're never going to do a Roni Girls Trip again. And she said she doesn't want to, she's like, how long can I do these live shows? She's like, they've heard the clip story. There's nothing left to say.
That's why she should just create an environment where people can just hang out with her and drink with her and connect with her. Like when she did Bluestone Manor for Airbnb,
yes,
that was really smart. Or this past holiday collection where she invited a bunch of reporters and influencers to come and hang out and do dinner at Bluestone Manor. Very similar to like Kathy Hilton. She partnered with DirecTV, hosts this holiday party every year, and like it's good promotion for her, but she's like welcoming people into her home that people want to go into and see Kathy Hilton's home. You know, Dorinda Medley, I think her strongest asset is Bluestone Manor.
So that's Dorinda. Number 2, is Bethany just going to be on TikTok till we all die?
Well, TikTok's going away. I don't know
whatever. You know what I mean. Insert.
Bethany is
iPhone.
The type of person that knows how to stay relevant, right? And it's very similar, you know, and this is part of her TikTok strategy that I've kind of leaned into with the Blake and Baldoni stuff, and it is a tip that I learned from Bethany, is when you strike and the iron's hot, you have to keep doing that. So whether she was talking about Chanel or whether she was talking about crab legs or she was talking about the drones, you know, she kept doing video after video after video
Caviar
about
and tuna
that until
fish.
it really burned the tuna fish, until it burned people out. And she knew how to ride it until the very end. And then she found something new. And then she rode that till the very end. You know, so I think one thing Bethany is good at is just kind of throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. And what sticks, she'll run with that until it runs out. And then she'll throw more things at the wall. But she just keeps going. So I think she'll continue to lean into social media, and whatever comes from the TikTok extinction, whatever is built from that is what she'll lean into now.
And number 3, I'm going to group all these people together. The cast of Vanderpump Rules.
Vanderpump Rules. I knew you were going to say that.
The people who we care about, meaning, I mean, for me, I'm going to say Tom and Jax. I think I have fully come out of the closet that I've always loved Tom Sandoval. I love the bad. I love James Kennedy. Like I get a lot of like crazy eyes at me when I talk about this. I mean, not you, but you know, the nicer folks, they tend to look at me like I'm crazy. But yeah, those people. And the answer is I don't want to hear about the Valley.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I honestly don't think the Valley is going to last long. I think it's having its moment, and I think it's going to fizzle out.
If you've listened to this episode this far, I feel this is a safe space to say I can't stand the Valley. It's actually unwatchable to me.
I don't mind the Valley. I enjoy it, but it's also just not anything new or fresh. And it's not new and fresh people, especially now that we know that Schwartz, Lala, and Sheena are going to be joining, or they're going to be, you know, in the new season, that it's just a lot of the same. But so what do I think they should do, or what do I think they're going to do?
Both.
I feel like poor Schwartz is going to end up, he's going to try to podcast for a minute, but I think he's ultimately going to end up probably like being a bar manager somewhere. Sandoval is going to continue to be reality TV villain. He'll do all these traders and for special forces. He'll continue to ride that as long as he can. He'll ride the live shows and the trivias as long as he can. Similar to Jax, I think they're just seasoned reality stars, and they will ride anything that people give them for as long as they possibly can. They're going to be like Spencer and Heidi, right? Cockroaches until the end. You can't get rid of them until they have their resurgence. I'm really concerned about Ariana and Katie. Those are the two that I'm probably the most worried about. Lala's going to be fine. I think she's a hustler and she'll always find a way to make money, and she's got 2 babies to provide for. And there's nothing more motivating about providing than kids to feed. Sheena's going to be full influencer. She's going to do more of her Smirnoff deals. She's going to.
Isn't Ariana in the clear for the rest of her life, or at least the next like 10 years?
I don't think so.
Really? She's proven that she can sell tickets on Broadway, which they can plug her into any show.
Yeah, but you have to remember, like when you're the hot commodity for so long, then you burn out the brands and you burn out the audience. Like eventually people are going to be tired of coming in. Like everyone's rooting for Ariana because we watched her fall, right? But like look at Brandi Glanville. Everyone rooted for her after Eddie Cibrian and she came onto Real Houses of Beverly Hills and everyone loved her until everyone, got fatigued by her. And so I think with Ariana, she is talented, but I just don't think she has much of that drive. And from what we've seen from her on Vanderpump Rules, very messy, very bad with money, very lazy. I think she struck while the iron was hot and had a lot of people around her that were pushing her. But I imagine her team has gotten bigger. And the bigger your team is, the more cuts you have to cut out. Even with Love Island, they're not going to keep her for another 10 years. Like she was good, but eventually just like Ariel and just like Sarah Hyland, like they gave them 3 seasons and then they cycled them out and brought someone new in. And Ariana's just the new thing. But like when it comes to brands, you don't want somebody that's faces all over the place because then there's nothing unique about having them be the face of your brand, right? There's no exclusivity with Ariana's brand because her brand is just everywhere. She's everywhere. And with the audience, when you see somebody that's that overexposed, eventually you're going to get so sick of them, just like the Kardashians. You're going to be so sick of them that you just want to tune out. And so I'm worried about her and I'm worried about Katie because I don't think either of them have much drive and the sandwich shop is going to go under.
But how high can Katie's expenses be? I mean, that's the other thing. It's only a matter of what your expenses are.
Yeah, but you also have to understand, like, they are people that are probably living beyond their means, similar to housewives, right? They get money and then they spend a lot of money. They buy really expensive apartments. Listen, I've made that mistake, So when it came to the rent here, I was like, shit, when things start to get a little tough, like I made this commitment and I got to find a way to keep it going,
Zack Peter, you're amazing. You're an amazing broadcaster. I think the world of you.
I don't know. I think you're gassing me up half the time.
No, what do you mean? I say this to you privately all the time.
I know.
I love you. Tell everybody where they can find you and follow you. Best way to follow you on YouTube, TikTok, everything.
Listen, it's just Zack Peter all over the internet, Instagram, YouTube, podcast, TikTok. You just type in Zack Peter and I will come up. See, and that's the important thing about launching a brand. And that's why I think all these people that have these, like, I don't want to use specific examples, but like people that have like tea time with Teddy or tea time with Tiffany, and you're known as Tea Time with Tiffany. There's no real distinct brand outside of Tea Time with Tiffany. That's why I'm like, I always like to sell my name as the one driving force outside of the podcast. That way there's longevity. Zack Peter has more longevity than No Filter or The Pop Report or any one of my specific projects. So Zack Peter all over. Listen to No Filter with Zack Peter 5 days a week.
What are you most looking forward to this year?
I'm excited to do more live shows again. And I do have some fun tricks up my sleeve. With some new, it's time to like challenge. I mean, I've always, when it came to launching the wine or it came to doing live shows, I was always like, what is something new and unique that people are not doing that I can then, even with the wine line, I was like, I want to create some sort of product and merch is just so basic and everyone does merch. Like, let's create a product that I can drink on a live stream and drink with people and we can feel like we're connecting over that. So I have some ideas I'll share them with you offline, but I do have a couple of ideas for what I plan to lean into in this new year that are exciting for me.
Thank you so much. This has been a blast.
Thank you.
And anybody who missed it, do look up Zack. Zack and I did a whole episode where we talked about, we lifted the car, we lifted the hood under the car of Bethany's talk show. We looked under the hood, we found some jewels. And that's an amazing episode that's on YouTube and on the Hot Takes podcast feed. So that's a fun conversation that we had.
Yeah, that one is fun.
Thank you so much. I love you.
Love you.